Joshua Gray.
And I'm Randall Holcomb. And we're back with Full Potato versus Penguin Mafia as our next match.
But first up, as a reminder, please follow us on Twitter at WGLNA, Facebook.com/WGLNA, and use that hashtag WGLNA as you've seen during the broadcast. We'll find a couple of your tweets and put them up on the screen.
And don't forget about the question of the day: which team is going to distinguish themselves from the rest of the pack? Who's going to break away? Who's going to kind of come from that middle section right now, reach towards the top, or who from the bottom might grab a few points before we go to Christmas?
I would say we're both impressed by Simply Irresistible, at least how they were trying to control Prohorovka. It still was a victory for the Cunninghams. And the Cunninghams were up 4-0 moving on to Prohorovka. I went, well, it was going to be 5-0. Here we go. And then we were wrong. I was wrong, at least. So well done to Simply Irresistible, even though it was a loss, well fought against a veteran team. Now, these next two teams, Full Potato versus Penguin Mafia, have joined us for the first time in the Gold League. Penguin Mafia has tried a number of times. Full Potato's name has been floating out there in the Silver League, I believe, for a while.
Yeah, they competed there, and that's how they ended up getting in. And then Penguin Mafia, it was refreshing, kind of, to see one of those teams that had been coming back to every single qualifier for numerous seasons to just make it. Because you knew they were growing. You could see it when they were playing, right? Every time they came to the qualifiers, like, oh, Penguin Mafia didn't look so good. Good, better luck next time, get better and better. And then they came back. Yeah. And then it was like, wow, Penguin Mafia looks like a team that could compete, at least with the way these matches are looking. And then this last time when they made it through, I was watching them play the teams that they were playing, and I was like, yes, this is it. You guys are ready. This is the time when you guys can finally come in and compete at the highest level. Of course, once you do that, you're no longer playing the same teams as you are in the qualifier. It's a different game. It's something a little bit higher level. All of the individual players are much better. And so where you were performing so well and stomping these other teams, when you get to the Gold League, you figure out these are the big guys. Yeah. These are the varsity guys.
The varsity guys, the veteran guys, the guys that have been here for quite some time. And that is the best way these new teams are going to test themselves, is how they perform against these veterans. Can there be upsets? Can the underdogs get the wins? Of course, but it is an uphill battle, especially at the beginning of the season where these teams are getting acclimated how the Gold League works, the certain meta that everyone is getting accustomed to in 7x54 and figuring out which tanks to bring, what approaches to take, and that's where you even see a veteran team like the Cunningham struggle a bit for what Simply Irresistible was doing. And with these two new teams, I wonder if both of them kind of bring something fresh, either going through the qualifiers or from the Silver League, even something like Artie, based on the maps that we're going to see.
Yeah, these teams, they'll get used to it. I think they're going to just figure things out a little bit. It turns out for our face-off, we will only have Full Potato, I'm informed.
I believe so. Full Potato is standing by. Let's go ahead and talk with the representative from that team. Good evening, sir.
It's external this time. How are you doing?
External.
Yeah, good. How are you?
We're doing good, external. Full Potato, no wins so far. And the first matchup he had was a tiebreaker loss. What is the attitude and the morale of the team right now?
Well, all that's done for us so far is just giving us a drive to get better and try out more strats. So we've been putting a lot more effort into getting our strats going. We kind of had a problem where we were derping a little bit too much, something we were a little used to from Silver League, which is also kind of where the name slightly comes from. So we've been just trying to refine our strats and just kind of get more into that meta that Gold League is going on right now with that we've seen a lot of teams really develop just really well so far.
Are you surprised by what any of your opponents have brought to the battlefield? Is there anything that you've never seen before? Not necessarily the 7x54, but maybe certain tanks and certain tactics that maybe your team went, wow, we never thought of it that way. We should do this as well.
There's nothing I thought that maybe we should do it as well. The one thing I've been noticing is that aggression seems to work out pretty well. At least I like the way that it plays, where you just have a bunch of light tanks and just swarm an area and take that over. But one thing that kind of caught my eye was Hammer Time actually used a Roomba, however you want to say it. And I thought that was really interesting. I was very surprised by that. All of us were like, what are they doing? And it actually turned out to do pretty well. I think it was top damage in the game, so can't say too much about it.
We were very surprised to see that for the first time back in Season 3.
Yeah, so I actually want to ask about specific tank choices, but let's go for open maps. Bringing the Tier 6s, the 5916 or the T37, do you think there's any stronger tank in the Tier 6 area that you think is going to come out, and kind of why? If you could.
Well, there's benefits to each different tier 6, and there's a reason why you want to use each different one. The 5916 has that clip that puts out 500 burst damage in nearly 5-6 seconds, you know. And for against other light tanks, that's just, you know, for a tier 6, that does outstanding against tier 8. It's half their HP in just 6 seconds out of that tank. It's pretty crazy, and it also has extremely good acceleration. Camo is good, so 5916 is a pretty good choice, but most of the time, the reason you want to use them is, what I'm seeing a lot of the time is more for like scouting or on cap a lot of the time, honestly. Like I see them a lot of the time since their profile is so short and tiny, people use them on cap, either hiding behind things or just their camo values, and just put them near a bush or the outer side of the cap and just let them sit there with camo nets, and it's very hard to see them a lot of the time. Like you usually can't even spot them from around, you know, 350 meters or so.
All right, External, do you have any words, even though your opponents aren't here, do you have any words for your opponents before we start this battle?
Well, I was hoping that Canadian Mana was going to be doing, well, I guess I should say Sam Tarley. I was hoping he was going to be doing the face-off. And I was going to ask them, too, if they're going to pick up Jon Snow during this roster change that's going on right now.
All right, good to see you, External. Best of luck on the battlefield.
Thank you. See ya.
Yeah, when that Waffentrager, or the Ramba, as they like to call it, was first introduced on the battlefield, I think it was either Simple Tankers or it was another team whose name escapes me right now of River of Blood. It was River. Simple Tankers brought it. It didn't work. River of Blood would bring it, and they would make it work.
Yes.
But still, it's the sound that gets me every time.
The 150 millimeter cannon.
It is the sound of destruction, and it's beautiful. I love it. The sound of the T-49 firing is great too.
Oh yeah, just the cool echo. Yeah. I liked it when they updated the sounds of World of Tanks, the cannon sounds, so that when you had a huge cannon on an artillery piece or on something like an E100 or on a Waffentrager, then you just had that huge booming echo. And when I got myself a nice headset, it was really nice to just put it on, and when I fired a big cannon, feel it more than I had before.
Well, Cliff's going to be our first battle, or first series, and the positioning that we saw from the Cunninghams, by using those T-49s, using that higher ground, and also the punishment of that higher ground towards any type of movement in the center, was very key for their victory, at least from last week. I wonder if a lot of teams have taken notes from seeing how well that they executed on this map, or if these teams are going to own it in a certain different way, be it either the tank lineups that they're going to bring. Tank destroyers have not been the most effective, but back in Season 2 when this map was first introduced, there was a tank destroyer strategy that did work out. There's
a Jagdpanzer 2 in the north on the hill.
Yep.
That one. That could work, I think, maybe. But when the cliff was reworked to add a bunch of buildings kind of to that northern area to add some cover and allow for the northern team to not be so exposed if they decided to go east, I think that may have ruined that sniping position because it no longer was so open. You didn't have quite as many options. There were a number of blind spots added. So it was good once, but not anymore.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the rosters of both these teams, as they are both new to the Gold League, and we get to know them a little bit more. Fat Crow's the team leader of Full Potato. Shinma, Cash Baby, and then also taking a look at External, who we saw in the face-off.
Yes, then for Penguin Mafia, Blaze Zero, who I got a chance to talk to the other day, a little bit about some of their strats. Maybe they'll come up again if they bring them. And then Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, who was not playing during my fantasy, was playing the other day. Hopefully he's back. Played rather well.
And battle number 1 for match number 2, Full Potato versus Penguin Mafia, is about to begin on Cliff. The attackers will be Penguin Mafia, the defenders Full Potato. What do we have for tanks?
All right, we've got a Pershing T69 1390 RU-251, a T49 played by Chandog, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs for the side Full Potato. They're defending, by the way. On the other side, Penguin Mafia, the attackers, the red team, 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, a T49, of course, and a T37. Both comps, I think, yeah, those are both pretty good.
They're viable. Both viable.
But the Pershing makes me worry a little bit. I feel that a Pershing is too slow to get to the right positions quickly. And if Penguin Mafia dominates the middle hill well enough, that Pershing will be more of a liability than it will be any kind of a benefit for Full Potato. Even though they start out with just under 500 hit points advantage for their team.
Opening movement coming from the attackers. Up and over the hill, possibly. Scrublet takes a hit from the rear for 221. Chandog, that T49. Could turn the corner. 3 hits on Scrublet. He's stuck. He can't move. One more, and he's going to go down. Another shot on Canadian Cracker. And Full Potato opens with a punishing volley of fire. That T-49 shot does not land. 307 damage done to Shinma, though. Another shot towards Scrublet, and he is the first to fall on the side of Penguin Mafia.
I like these crossfires from Full Potato. I didn't think they would come together so well, but it turns out that that counters out the T-49 position. And also not taking the West or putting any tanks out there has led to them losing probably one of the most important tanks they have. Meadowhawk has to run away now. He's all alone. I don't think he's going to be able to do this very well, as most tanks from Penguin Mafia get right up and over. Shots connect. There goes down a T7 in exchange for Scrublet and Tyrion.
Canadian Cracker is able to land that last shot. He dodges a shot coming from the blue team. Wolf Knife Laserbacon not as lucky, and he is very low. And Chandog returns fire, takes down Canadian Mono, and Full Potato is up 6-5 when it comes to tanks. And also, about double HP.
Yeah, the 7 tier points. You're right about the double HP. It's not looking too good for Penguin Mafia right now. They don't have a lot to work with. They can't take many risks because they don't have hit points to lose to any kind of a risk. If they did, it would have to work out perfectly the first time. And now Shinma is going to move up. Full Potato, recognizing their advantage, is going to be able to start proxy spotting, creating some new crossfires, kind of slowly maneuvering on their opponent. And at the same time, Full Potatoes on defense. They don't have to do any real attacking. They just have to keep themselves in order. They have to keep their opponent in order.
When I saw the movement from Penguin Mafia heading towards the donut, which is this rock area right here, we like to call it because the tanks can completely circle it, I thought, well, you know, Full Potato can take full control of the center of the map, but they're not pushing out. And they have continued to hold those defensive positions currently. And now Blaze Zero, Laxbrawn, Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon moving away from the donut. Blaze Zero leading the charge with Laxbraw here, trying to maybe get behind some of those tankers on the side of Full Potato. It is an uphill battle, though, for Penguin Mafia. 3 minutes and 50 seconds left on the timer. Plenty of time for a strategy to develop and be executed here from Penguin Mafia to break the defensive posture of Full Potato. Blaze Zero and Laxbraw still hugging the rocks here in that northern section. And the rest of their teammates looking for potential opening here. Blaze Zero inching closer and closer to that flag cap. Laxbraw still covering him. And that coverage can only go so far, Randall, especially in all of the different firing positions up top for the defenders, for Full Potato.
And looking around right now, looking for something.
Oh, big shot from Chandog, takes down Blaze Zero.
That'll work.
One hit peppered, did a little bit of damage. He fell back, and Chandog from up top, and that T-49 echoing Dodoma performance from the Cunninghams with that kill.
I didn't think that angle existed. I didn't think Chandog would be able to make that kind of a shot.
Well, he made it.
I counted it completely outside of the realm of something that should happen. Chandog. Well, I was just like, all right, Chandog's over there. Yeah, he's got an angle, but there's no way in any real world that he's going to connect that shot. That
Wolf
range.
Knife Laser Bacon is the next to fall. 3 tanks left for Penguin Mafia. And it's the slow, inevitable realization that this first battle is going to go to Full Potato. So Penguin Mafia can either take this time to assess what went wrong in this battle, to recover for the next battle, to wait it out a bit. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Well, they'll make some kind of move, I guess. There's not a lot of options. I don't see a situation for Penguin Mafia. Canadian Cracker, all alone, is being taken on by Shinma, down by 457 hit points. He does have the opportunity of getting back in here, but if Shinma plays this right, support will come in just in time, and, well, he shouldn't go down.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Full Potato's taken this long to get on the attack. They could close this out about 30, 40 seconds ago. And now Canadian Cracker goes down. Triumph and Laxbraw, last tanks alive. The reason I bring that up, Randall, is it's a type of practice, like practices and procedures, just in case they were on the side of the attackers and they had an overmatch. You can't waste time. There is no scenario where wasting time is a good thing.
Fair enough. I would agree. You always just go for the best win you can. Go for as much of a victory as you can. And on top of that, I mean, stats, man. You got to keep your stats up.
Gotta keep the stats. Triumph, last tank alive, hanging out next to these rocks here. Get a closer look. 13.
No one from Full Potato has guessed that he's in the Southwest. And, well,
they have 55 seconds to figure it out. This will be a victory for Full Potato as time is going to tick by here.
just give it one more minute. Now, let's start looking back on everything that happened for Penguin Mafia to lose out, Full Potato to win. So, Penguin Mafia's initial strategy, which relies, by the way, on Scrublet in a T-49, to make it to the middle hill and then deal damage. Both T-49s will make connections. Both T-49s will probably destroy a tank or deal so much damage that he has to burn all of his kits right then and there. Hit points go either way. It takes a little while, but Full Potato did an excellent job at knowing that position was going to come. I don't say predicting, I say knowing. They knew that with a T-49 on the map, that was the only real option. They went for it. Now Triumph looks to be AFK, or at least just locking his tank in that position. Full Potato takes battle number one.
Battle number one in a decisive sense, especially that awesome shot from that T-49. Yes. But you have to figure out what is worth fighting for when it comes to positions on Cliff. 99% of the time, every battle is going to be fought trying to control the hillside. I don't know what Scrublet was trying to do to stay in that position for so long. I saw no advantage or no present advantage unless he wanted to get at least one shot off and then fall back.
No, it was...
By the time that happened, he had taken way too much damage for it to even make a difference.
When he goes up here, it's normal. He knows there's a 1390 there, yes. That's a cute position to get me. But Scrublet thinks, all right, I'm out of that danger. There's no 1390 there anymore. I think Penguin Mafia neglected to think about the far west, where we had an M41 show up. That was what scared him, because he's hanging back just in fire of one of the M41s, but then he moves just forward to get out of the fire of the M41 Meadowhawk, and a Pershing has an angle on it. So every single position on that hill, someone had an angle, which is what they needed to get that T-49 out. Yep. It's not really against him, because he didn't have all of the information. Every shell that came in was from a surprise angle, something he didn't already know about, something that hadn't been scouted, wasn't discovered, that kind of a deal.
But do you ever put yourself in a scenario of, I've taken way too much damage, any type of strategy I was trying to execute is out the window, I got to fall back?
Dodoma didn't quite think like that. He had low hit points when there was the 2v1 of the Cunninghams, and he stayed close enough to the fight that he was relevant, and it worked out. If he can stay alive, keep his gun in the fight, if he pulls all the way out, he's useless. Might as well be dead. All
right, battle number 2 between Full Potato and Penguin Mafia about to take place here on Cliff. What do we have for tanks?
All right, looking at him, we've got Perching, T69, 1390 RU251, that T49, of course, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs for Full Potato. On the other side, Penguin Mafia, sticking with the bringing many tier 8s, and then the one tier 6. We've got a T69, 2 1390s, 3 RU251s, and a single T37.
Following Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon up front. One of my favorite names, period. By the sun, maybe I named that. Not really. That'd be a really tough time in high school.
Being named Wolf Knife Laser Bacon?
Well, maybe junior high.
No, that would be awesome. If I had a classmate named Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, come on. He would be my best friend. I wouldn't care if we didn't naturally get along. His name, I would work for it.
Got it. Triumph. Blacksbra, Blaze Zero, and Scrublet. We're going to head up on the higher section towards the west as Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon, Canadian Cracker, Canadian Mono are going to join them as well. So firing back towards external. One shot for 27 hit points.
HE shell from an RU251, I would assume.
Yeah.
Hitting tracks or splashing would do just about that much damage. External's track should be damaged. Maybe a track shot could get him next time and trap him out in the open. He'd have to burn his kit. He'd probably take 1 or 2 more shells after that. Not a bad situation that Penguin Mafia is kind of setting themselves up for.
I don't like this opening movement coming from Penguin Mafia because I feel they're too trapped. There's not much room of maneuverability to deal with the defensive positioning of Full Potato.
I can see what you're saying. They have 2 corners to go around, one to the north, one to the south of this large rock. and their opponent's watching both. They can go to the southern one, probably be a bit safer, but the northern one, when you look around this corner, that you see all of the Penguin Mafia tanks looking around, External has a perfect angle, and it's mostly hull down. Pershing has angled front armor. He's got tracks to absorb heat and HE. And the turret peaks just over.
And Triumph takes 2 hits. Laxbra took one before. External from Full Potato lands another shot against Blaze Zero. Right before that, he took a hit.
And if you look at the hit points up top, I love this tool, by the way, new thing. 7,700 for Full Potato and 6,800 for Penguin Mafia. Again, a lead by Full Potato. They're getting the damage done. They're making the hits. Who's not? Penguin Mafia is not getting the hits that they need in order to try and get some kind of advantage and work with it. It's what the attackers have to achieve. They have to find better ways than their opponent of getting an advantage and jockeying for a lead.
Here is Laxbra pushing up through the village, using the cover of the bushes and the trees to get up towards Canadian Mono in the northern section. Canadian Mono reveals his position, firing to some of the tanks to the north, hitting the RU-251 driven by a World Without War in the rear twice. And again, I've seen a number of tanks tonight so far, Randall, not necessarily this series. A little bit of friendly fire smashing into each other. These guys have got to be very cautious about that. Laxbra's in trouble. 2 hits, 3 hits, and he goes down, and that's the first tank down for Penguin Mafia. And now they're trying to aggress against the high ground. Triumph's the next one to fall. Canadian Mono from long range, the T-37, not dangerous enough against Full Potato's positioning.
No, and the crossfire coming from the middle, which is what Penguin Mafia was setting up for, is taking a little while to be effective. Vakro has only just now started taking damage after getting the kill. Now, he does go down, but Canadian Mono is dead as well. Now, 4 tanks left for Penguin Mafia, and Shinma has moved in very close to the guys in the south. I'm expecting Full Potato to bring in some kind of response and overmatch the mid shortly.
Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, last tank left alive in the north, has got to get back into this fight or get on the fly cap. He doesn't have much when it comes to angle and shots, especially with the movement coming from Full Potato on the upper side of Cliff in the center. And Wolf Knife Laser Bacon now has to make this decision. He should have made the decision a while ago to get back into the fight. Canadian Cracker's the next one to go down. And Scrublet is going to fall back, trying to cover Blaze Zero, but Blaze Zero goes down. Now Wolf Knife Laser Bacon leaves the north side to get down to the south, but it's going to be too little too late, as soon he will be the only tank remaining for Penguin Mafia.
Yeah, not working out yet again. Full Potato is playing it too smart, playing it far, far too well. Small time in here for a little bit of comeback damage, but it's cleanup time for Full Potato.
And Scrublet goes down. Shinma, Meadowhawk, and Warbander will engage on Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, who takes a hit to the side, and Meadowhawk from the rear, and the Bulldog lands 1, 2, 3, and Shandog in the T-49 lands the final shot, and that's 2-0 so far in favor of Full Potato. I'm trying to figure out exactly what Penguin Mafia is trying to do, because that donut positioning doesn't work for him at all.
No, the west versus east kind of deal against the defender. The defender doesn't have to do much. They don't really have to shift position to do anything. There's nothing that the West does which forces the Eastern position to shift, to react, to do anything. In fact, it allows them to get more comfortable positioning. And you can see that with Full Potato. It's a little frustrating to watch, because Penguin Mafia is obviously going for something, but it's not impactful. It's not making any kind of effect onto Full Potato. Full Potato's in fact getting more damage onto them.
I can see the strategy in a sense of trying to pull the tanks on the side to the west to engage the tanks to the north, leaving an opening for everyone next to the donut to push forward. But there is no tactical advantage to move into a narrow causeway, you could say, on the donut side, either north or south, when all the enemy has to do is boom, boom, and fire. I mean, especially at a higher ground.
And obviously, Penguin Mafia in this last one was trying to create some kind of distraction.
Yeah,
maybe?
with the T-37 at first, not able to land a number of hits, and then the RU-251 went to go join him, and then he got punished for his Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, and then he got punished. Not working out. But now this is where it gets intriguing on the side of, okay, attack defense, switching sides. Is Full Potato going to continue this streak? or is Penguin Mafia going to enjoy being the defenders? What do we have for tanks, Reynold, battle number 3?
All right, Penguin Mafia, blue team, the defenders, will have 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, a T-49, and a T-37. So same strategy as they were on attack, pretty much. Same lineup, going for the lights. Other side, full potato, now the attackers. 1390, 3 RU-251s, T-49, and they're just keeping the 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs, which I'm beginning to lean towards in favor.
Here's the opening movement coming from the defenders, Penguin Mafia, as they're sticking together up on the Charlie line, heading down to the south. Scrublet, the T-49, going to lead the way here.
And then on the other side, we've got external Fat Crobe and that Ward going to the middle, kind of to cut off anyone crossing from east to west. But that doesn't seem to be the case because Penguin Mafia is grouping up. This is going to be a complete overmatch. Up and over 1,050 damage to Chandog. He goes down instantly.
That is a huge hit from Scrublet, and it's cleaned up. A Canadian Mono, and the rest of Penguin Mafia is going to try to overmatch, and they take down Warbander. That's 2 tanks down. All tanks still left alive for Penguin Mafia. World Without War, next target going to be focused on. He goes down. Blaze Zero gets the final shot. Laxbra fires. Not sure if that connected from the RU-251. If it did, it went on Fat Crow. Meadowhawk trying to fire back. An external is now in the center, being surrounded by Penguin Mafia, and only 2 tanks remain from Full Potato. This is a complete turnaround from Penguin Mafia. Meadowhawk now falling back. Laxbra gets the big shot and the kill.
And here comes Scrublet. Almost all of his hit points, but the ram.
192 hit points in that shot. Penguin Mafia shuts him down.
All right, that was a complete gamble. That was a complete gamble.
Yes.
Let's go at them, guys. We're the defenders. They'll expect us to play slow. Let's take everyone up and over the middle. It'll work. And it did this time.
It did.
But it might not have. I want to point that out.
That opening shot, though, from Scrublet, the T-49, he puts himself in a stop position to have the most accurate shot, and it's in a mid-range engagement as well. So that was a perfect opening.
If he hadn't connected, I don't think the momentum would have continued quite the same for Penguin Mafia.
True.
Too many shells would have started to get wasted, and the T-49's lack of damage, it would have taken a minute. There would have been more time for Full Potato to react. But because the T-49 connects here, you see the momentum go way into the favor of Penguin Mafia.
It really deceptive if Penguin Mafia put Full Potato in a false sense of security.
Yes.
From what happened in the first 2 battles on Cliff. Now it turns into this scenario of, okay, it worked once being on the aggressive side for the defenders, which you've seen a number of teams in 7x54 do.
Yeah.
But if it becomes expected of you, that's when it's not as effective.
Fair enough. Doing, the unexpected kind of generally works. There's a saying, expect the unexpected, but of course, there's so many options. So many options out there.
It's a meta game. You got to expect the unexpected unexpectedly.
Once you start getting into that stuff, it stops.
It's 3rd level. Don't make me go to 4th level, man.
Please don't.
All right. Battle number 4 between Penguin Mafia and Full Potato is about to begin. What do we have for tanks?
All right, we've got a 1390, 3 RU-251s, a T-49, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs for Full Potato. They will be attacking, yet again. And on the other side, Penguin Mafia will have 2 1390s, 3 RU-251s, T-49, and this time a VK-2801, which is, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. This is a cool little tank. This used to be a Tier 5 light tank, moved up to Tier 6, and it had, what was it, a 105? Is it? A little short barrel 105, if I remember correctly? I don't know if they removed the gun when they moved it to Tier 6. Gosh, I didn't expect it to be played. It seems like such an inferior choice most of the time. It's heavy. It rams well, but at Tier 6, I liked it more as a Tier 5 personally.
Oh, Shinma, you are in for a surprise. This could be an overmatch for the M41 Walker Bulldog, but look at this map control coming from the rest of Full Potato. Big shot on Shinma, and he's going to have to fall back in the Bulldog as the rest of the positioning coming from Full Potatoes. The attackers are going towards the flat cap on the other side, forcing the engagement and forcing Penguin Mafia to come to them, and they are going to be open to a lot of damage from Full Potato.
But Full Potato needs to make sure they don't spread out too much and get taken out one by one. The cap timer takes a while. It's not this kind of thing you can just fast cap. there's enough time for Penguin Mafia to begin some kind of blitz. They take down Shinma, and they're going to be able to continue this momentum. They'll take down Tank one by one, and then they'll be able to arrive at the cap. That is the problem here that Full Potato is looking at.
20 seconds left, actually 15 seconds left as Penguin Mafia pushes up, and they do get the reset. But look at the amount of damage being done to Triumph and Laxbra. Canadian Cracker falls. Wolf Knife Laser Bacon on the move, fires his RU-251, and World Without War takes down Triumph. 2 against 3 on the flag cap here. Penguin Mafia is going to push in. They get the kill in the center, but Laxbra low is the next tank that could fall. External low, falling back here. He goes down. It's up to Fat Crobe to hold out against Wolf Knife Laser Bacon as Meadowhawk and Chandog are engaging in the last 2 tanks on his side. Fat Crobe trying to back up. Wolf Knife gets a shot on the side. Looks like that was a bounce, but doing a little bit of damage here. Fires again. 250 now 488. Fat Crobe trying to move past. Oh, don't fall off. And Fat Crobe goes down. It's 1 tank left alive. That's Chandog, the T-49 up top.
And he's got to back up. Recognizes that he can't go for Canadian Mono. He wanted him. Didn't quite have the angle to get the shot, or may have been reloading. Scrublet has had enough time to be reloaded now.
Oh, Chandog could get the shot on Canadian Mono if he lines it up correctly, but he does not want to expose himself to any enemy fire.
He doesn't see it, though. Canadian Mono is driving just the right route, just so that he's under the view range of Chandog. Chandog is now just hunting for a target.
And Chandog,
he's found Mono.
Angling. Can't get it yet. From up top. Oh, careful, Chandog.
That was a little risky.
You could get caught. Oh, now, nope, up, up. Careful.
Oh, I don't like that.
Oh, he's able to dodge the shot a bit. Takes 87 damage and 130 falling damage. Dodges a shot coming out of Penguin Mafia and is going to hug the side. However, the reload time for the T-49 compared to the RU-251 is going to be tough. Chandog still has a long time for having another shell ready. And Scrublet's going to be pushing the T-49. Lines it up. Can he get the shot on Wolf Knight? He gets it. It's up to Scrublet to close this off. Chandog trying to hold out against Scrublet, but waiting for the shot. Scrublet dancing back and forth actually gets it. And Penguin Mafia ties up the series 2-2. A little bit crazy on both sides.
Yeah.
On Cliff.
I did not like Full Potato's choice to kind of go for a fast cap. That obviously didn't work for them. And there's a few reasons, so we should probably go ahead and take those apart. First, you're spreading your forces out against a target, against an opponent who is together as one very large mob. 2, the cap is too long. You can't get away with this unless you have a real screen, a real unified other group of your tanks, which is difficult to deal with in such a position that to go for these fast cappers, you would have to take far more damage. So probably a little bit stronger positions from Full Potato when they took the hill might have been able to make this work, but the positions from Full Potato were such that this is not really going to happen. They don't have anything to give them enough advantage, really.
True enough.
That's it.
It's kind of up in the air right now for both teams. We need to note that every battle victory so far has been on the defensive side for both these teams, so attackers have not been affected. But what do we have for stats overall for the individual performances of these teams?
You're going to love this. Wolf Knife Laser Bacon, 3,205 damage.
Wow.
2 kills.
That is huge from the T-49. So,
RU-251.
Or excuse
Josh.
me, the RU-251.
No, T-49.
Scrublet's right below. He had 3 tank kills for cleaning up, but he was 3 for 6.
And only 1,553 damage.
Yeah,
so I know you thought it would have been the T-49. It makes sense that it should be that tank, but no. This time an RU-251 did it. And it's Wolf Knife. The one guy that I remove from my fantasy team is now playing again, and he does 3k damage.
An update for the non-broadcast matches happened tonight. Elevate is up over Roulette 2-1. Currently, we'll keep you updated as that series continues. We're going to be moving to Prohorovka for this series, as we're currently tied 2-2, waiting for the tank selection to complete for both these teams here. What we saw from Prohorovka in the previous series was that flex point, you could say, that catalyst in the center of the T-32s. Some of these teams like to watch the previous broadcast to see what the previous team brought in case there's any sort of pattern to get ideas. Maybe not necessarily for that match that they're going to execute tonight, but it's good to study the film, study the VODs, and see what teams are bringing to which map here. Countdown has begun for battle number 5 between Full Potato, Penguin Mafia. Who do we have? What do we have for tanks? Excuse me.
All right, we've got, take a look at this. I'm going to start with Penguin Mafia. Carnivern, T32, T69, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and a T37. They've decided to bring a Carnivern on attack. And I always say Carnivern because Ermagerd Carnivern from the early seasons.
Early days of World of Tanks esports.
Yeah, throwback for those of you guys who remember them. Then, Full Potato. T32 Pershing, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. Interesting strat. I want to see how that Carnivern works out because it is a good hold-down tank, but I've always felt that the T32 has been kind of stronger. But it does fire quickly and it has great penetration, so I can see why they would choose it.
Black Spraw dancing a little bit here in the T-37, able to see about 3 of those tanks from Full Potato. And first shot, first blood coming from Canadian Cracker in that T-69.
Yeah, well, first shot went into Canadian, second into external. A little bit of an exchange there. And now we've got a bit of aggression from Full Potato. They want to dominate the middle of the hill and they're posturing for it. Their tanks are peeking up and over. They are trying to deal the damage, which could force Penguin Mafia into a more submissive stance where they don't try and fight back on that and expect their opponent to peek over, but they're doing a good job of not giving in, of not giving up control of the center position and meeting their opponent there so that they can take control.
Look at this overmatch coming from the eastern side. Scrublet, Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon, and Triumph are pushing in as we fly over to the other side of the map against Shinma. He is low, 333 damage in that hit, 559 in that volley, and one more shot, he will fall. Meadowhawk and external. Now going to have to deal with what's pushing towards them. However, Scrublet and Wolf Knife are not moving from that pond river, you'd say, as Triumph takes a hit for 147. So now Scrublet and Wolf Knife have to concentrate on the tank doing damage. Meadowhawk up north.
But while that happens, I'm expecting to see a fight in the middle. It looks like an up and over from Blaze Zero, Canadian Cracker, Laxraw, and Canadian Mono. That needs to happen. I think that's what needs to happen, or it will be Full Potato bringing their own tanks. But 1, 2, 5 versus 4. Advantage going to Full Potato. Yes, advantage to Full Potato right now. They should push up and over. They have a distraction in the far northeast that can't quite get into the fight, but it should work out.
It's a numbers game. Scrublet is not in, he was not in position in order to engage in this matchup. Meadowhawk had kept him distracted along with Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon. Now he moves into the center section. It's going to be possibly lights out for the rest of Full Potato's tanks as they're currently falling more and more as the firefight continues. Meadowhawk from way above north is going to punish Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon's positioning here as he's trying to get back into the fight. And the consistent fire from Meadowhawk will punish this as Scrublet gets a kill. And it's 3 tanks on 3 now in favor of Full Potato.
Surprise, surprise, Warbander pretended. It looked like he was pretending to be out of shells. He hit behind the rock and kind of hit his gun. Both tanks come out after him.
It's a good fake. It's a great fake.
Great fake.
Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon, 1 shot away from falling here, and he goes down. Full Potato takes the lead, 3-2 on Prohorovka. That was Warbander that pretended he had a reload, the 1390.
Yeah. At least I thought so.
Yeah.
I looked at him, I said, oh, he must be on reload. He just stopped in this rock right here. Stopped the forward momentum. The 1390s usually don't stop. They always continue until they're out of shells. And then they run away after realizing they went a little bit too deep. Or, oh, wow, I'm out of shells. This time, it was cute.
It was that deep meta. It was that 4th level meta.
It was a good play.
All right. Here we'll see once again that brawl that continued and enraged for a bit. Could have gone on either side, but in the end it was Full Potato that took it. I want to look at the positioning and target fire, the focus fire as they take down the T-32. Yeah, they lose the tank because of it, but in the end, it's a victory for them. Still,
Full Potato had an advantage in hit points before going into this. Penguin Mafia did have some position and tactical advantages on their side, so you can see how close it was.
Yeah.
If Full Potato was in a better position, I guess, with their tank layout, they would have been able to more easily win that up and over, but because of the ability for tanks to respond from the northeast, that is what took so long for everything to kind of clean up.
Yeah, the engagement was a little bit wonky.
Yes.
It was a little bit wonky, and not to be dismissive or diminish the impact and importance of these teams, right? But you see this type of play from teams that are inexperienced when it comes to comparison to the veterans. So there's a lot of things that both these teams need to clean up, looking at the overall scope of the Gold League. But it's still anybody's series, though. Penguin Mafia or Full Potato could still take it here. I'm actually a little bit surprised at Penguin Mafia on their performance so far. Full Potato, they don't have a win yet, but it's looking like they're starting to get it together, at least with coordination and movement as a team. Battle number 6. Between Full Potato and Penguin Mafia, what do we have for tanks?
We have a T-32 Pershing, 1392 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. That's Full Potato, the blue team defending. Attacking will be Penguin Mafia yet again. They're going to try the Kernavern one more time. T-32, T-69, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and that T-37 by the Laxbra.
Again, every single victory for both teams has been on the defensive side here, so it either is going to come down to who can break that as the attackers, or it could go to a tiebreaker here. Canadian Cracker, excuse me, and Blaze Zero and Canadian Mono, they're moving together in the center section of the map. He's in that Carnivore.
Laxbra taking a hit for 223 from External in the mid. I'm liking the choice to put External right up against a rock in the middle so that he pressures out any scout making a run, just like what we saw with Laxbra. It's a good play for Full Potato to kind of posture for control of the middle. And again, he takes a hit onto Canadian Mono in the Kernavern, who is still getting into position. The heavy tanks, not that fast. Takes them a while, they're caught out in the open, and the routes they choose to get to the middle, while the fastest and most efficient, are not necessarily the safest.
So Full Potato is falling back towards the railroad tracks as they notice this push-up coming from Penguin Mafia. It's a very, very dangerous time, a small window as their rears are exposed to Penguin Mafia, but now they can start to return fire. But Fact Rope takes a hit for 238, but Canadian Mono's punished for it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Right at the beginning of this battle, Penguin Mafia had a hit point advantage. Right now, Full Potato is sitting on 700 points and climbing of advantage over their opponent. That, with the cover fire positions from Meadowhawk and Warbander, are dealing plenty of damage. The hits, while they are small, are adding up because of the incredible fire rate of the autoloader version of the M41's gun.
Some really, really good crossfire coming from Full Potato here, but they have not been able to take down a tank yet. And as I say that, there goes Canadian Mono.
You had to jinx him.
I had to. Blaze Zero now going to use the dead husk of his teammate to form a barrier between some of the fire coming from External 007, excuse me, and Shinma, but he takes a hit for 228. Pulls his turret towards the north, and Penguin Mafia wants to attack the tanks that are in the center just below that defilade there, and one hit goes to Boire. Scrublet, Triumph, and Laxbra now pushing up.
And Boire is going to be focused down on 918 into him right to start this fight. 2 more shells will do it, but there is fire coming in on support. Few seconds extra, and so much damage. Wolf Knife goes down in reply, and it is going to be a slaughter.
This is the very crucial timing of where to go next after you push in with 2 positions crossfiring into you. It is either into the fire. It's like a frying pan and then into the fire, but either side is going to be terrible. Laxbra falls back.
Oh wow, Chandog fails to kill Laxbra for just a moment. He's going to have to wait for his reload. Gets it eventually, but not after a little bit of extra damage is dealt. Probably not going to matter much though. 4,000 hit points, 2 tanks. 1,000 hit points for between the 2 of them.
And Canadian Cracker takes it for 249. Blaze Zero is going to have to fall back, try to hold. Takes a shot from Shinma. 2-1, and Shandog gets that kill. Canadian Cracker, last one left alive. For Full Potato to earn another battle victory and take possibly the series with one more battle win after this. They are up 4-2. So far. Still, all the points have been towards the defender. Out of the frying pan into the fire type of scenario there when they were going up and over.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough, too, because they're pushing in, they get the guaranteed kill, and then there's 2 defensive positions from their enemy that rains hell upon them. Yeah. And so is it even worth it them to engage in that section?
I don't think so. I think that just at the beginning of that fight, they weren't getting the vision they needed, and they didn't have the cover fire that they needed as well. You saw that. everyone was lined up on a ridgeline trying to fire into some medium and heavy tanks whose whole purpose in that strategy is to be the guys who take fire. It's to be the tanks that you focus on. And Penguin Mafia played into that, which I'm surprised that it took them this to probably realize that that was a bad idea. You know, T-32s are not the guys you jump on because their support. Full Potato has 2 vectors of fire onto that position. You're not going to come out ahead. You can't. Not unless you have some kind of other spotting. You have some kind of support fire that is going to punish those guys.
Some flanking sweep that's already in motion. They're already moving into that section. And so as you are kind of the bait and distraction, they're not going to see this fleet of tanks, be it 3 or more, pushing in on that side for a flank advantage. I'm not seeing either one of these teams having that type of coordination.
Yeah, they don't have I don't think they have a game plan for getting early advantages. They don't have the little tricks, the motions that they're going to make to flex around to try and get hit points early on. What happens is one team or the other will be in a better position, and then they will trade a little bit of damage. After that, it doesn't seem like Full Potato or Penguin Mafia really has a recovery option. They just go for a fight, or a one already kind of naturally starts. Neither of these teams, I think, is going for that little step, which I would like to see that other teams go for.
I would too, and we don't mean to be harsh or to harp on it too much, but we have to outline what's going to make or break these teams as they move on past this week. The first 2 weeks are a great precursor to see what the behavior and success is going to be for these teams. It's not the ultimate definite, definition of who these teams are, but they have to work on these things over the holiday break. Is that type of coordination, planning strategy, and flexibility. And when you think, oh, we're flexible enough that we can continue to push forward like we saw in Prohorovka, but you're pushing into your own detrimental death and destruction for your own tanks, it's not the right decision to make. However, still seeing some good decisions, some good, controlled, focused fire coming from Full Potato, but can Penguin Mafia now do the same thing as the defenders on Prohorovka? Full Potato called a timeout. The timeout is now over. The countdown has begun for battle number 7. What do we have for tanks?
All right, looks like Penguin Mafia will be bringing a Kernivern again, T-32, Pershing, 1390, single RD-251, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. It's a very heavy lineup. On the other side, Full Potato now attacking the red team. T-32, Pershing, 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. So at the beginning of this, we look at the lineups and we see a heavier, meatier lineup from Penguin Mafia. Something that is also slower. But we see a faster, lighter lineup, only slightly, from Full Potato. It's going to be the way these guys are going to play it out. But Full Potato, even with more hit points, we saw this last battle, did not do what was needed.
Yeah.
With all of that armor and hit points, Penguin Mafia needs to get close enough to be a real threat and be dangerous enough that you can't leave them alone with that threat, which I think allows the Kernivern and the T-32 to perform a little bit better.
Looking at the opening run coming from Penguin Mafia and Full Potato, that eastern hill is going to be taken by the blue team, the defenders, Penguin Mafia, who's currently down 2-4 up against Full Potato, who's vied for the western spot in Prohorovka.
And what will be their plan? Probably going to be take this western position, get some cover fire, and then from here, they'll push a light tank across. Looks like Shinma will be the choice. All right, they're doing it very quickly, which I like. Not wasting any time, just dancing around looking for some kind of advantage. No. Let's get on the cap. Let's put our guy in his position. Let's not allow him to be taken out. Now, Triumph, look at that. Already down by 776.
That's
hit
huge.
points.
That is huge for Full Potato, who's one battle away from taking this series. Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon, and Canadian Cracker have swung to the south, looking for any opening to engage upon the rear flank of Full Potato. But nothing yet, as they have to creep closer and closer. And if somehow they're able to scout them, this could be the opening trigger for Full Potato to either engage upon them to the south, because they are cut off in a sense But Scrublet and Canadian Mono and the other T-32, the Carnivar and the T-32 are there to cover them.
But look at this. We've got Chandog, Warbender, External, and Meadowhawk. 4 tanks moving south. They found Canadian Cracker, and they found Wolf Knife Laser Bacon. The support fire coming from Full Potato should be superior, but Meadowhawk is also dropping, and he will go down first.
That's a big loss there on that 41 Bulldog, but the amount of HP left for Penguin Mafia is still an advantage for Full Potato. Wolf Knife Laser Bacon leaves that position. External is able to dodge a shot. Now Wolf Knife pushing up against a Pershing and T-32. However, he's still not in a safe spot as Canadian Mono takes a hit for 213 from long range. Wolf Knife gets hit for 284. And as he tries to fall back, the fire continues to reign supreme in favor of Full Potatoes. Canadian Mono is hit again. That volley over 700 damage.
Yeah, it seems as though the position should work out, but there goes Mono. That Carnivar doesn't seem to perform as well in hull down as a T-32. You can see by the damage that was dealt, it doesn't work as well. It doesn't have the absolute just strength of a T-32's turret. It's a little bit bigger on top. There is a position you can pen, and he wasn't able to stay in the fight because of that. T-32, on the other hand, Blaze Zero, who actually contradicts my statements by taking a shell, and that's a commander's hatch, right?
Yeah. It was pretty close.
No, it was right into it.
I see.
Gosh.
I see. It was not the hole because it was not fully exposed. Triumph gets hit. Shinma on the 41 could push up and get behind, but it's External from long range that takes him down. It is 4 tanks to 6 in favor of Full Potato, who's 1 battle away from closing this out. Blaze Zero takes another hit. External, however, receives 2 hits from Blaze Zero, Wolf Knife, Laser Bacon, but look at the overmatch advantage that Full Potato has. They can push up against Penguin Mafia and clean this up. And that's what Shinma's doing from behind. Blaze Zero will be the focused target as Scrubble's going to have to fall back in the Pershing. Blaze Zero falls to External as Shandog rams into the side of the Pershing. Gives a nice hit on the side, little kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, this high ground position working out just slowly, takes a minute. Laxpra's the last one alive, way out in the open, and just trying to get as much damage as he can before it's over.
And that's it. It is over. Full Potato takes the series 5-2 and earns their first win in the Gold League.
Congratulations, it was well played. In this series, though, there were a lot of mistakes by both teams. I think it was mostly on the attacking side. Teams deciding I'm the attacker and being a little bit more energetic and aggressive than they would have been on the defense, when their defensive strategies were generally just fine. In this case, the last battle I'll go for was a situation where we actually had a defense mistake.
Yeah.
We had defenders decide to take a reaction, and they didn't follow through. They stopped after they were met by their opponent in the right positions. Their opponent was in obvious positions, hold downs,
yes,
looking straight at him, and instead of continuing forward, trying to get an overmatch, something like that, they stuck in a position that they felt was safe, you know, something they could stop in, but I didn't see a reason to stop there and not somewhere closer to your opponent where you could make that fight happen.
Oh, we talked about the false sense of security, right? Kind of what Penguin Mafia was doing to Full Potato. It seemed that, what are you guys doing? We have seen Penguin Mafia perform better than this, at least in the qualifiers we have. I feel that there is a certain pattern to playing any type of competitive sport, competitive esport, any type of competition, that when you're first starting out, you're not thinking as much. You're feeling it out. You don't have any of these high expectations. You're not overthinking things. The stuff is a little more natural. You go with it.
You're just trying to play.
Almost, people call it like beginner's luck, but you're trying to play the game.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done through the qualifiers over and over again. Now when you're starting to see these deeper developed strategies with teams that have been in the Gold League for quite some time, it adds this layer of doubt. And teams have to work through that and move past that. It is part of the evolution of working in a league to get past that point and get even better. And I think that's what's happening to Penguin Mafia right now. It's like, hey, we've won, we've lost some. Now we're getting our feet wet, and now we're starting to get into that next realm of we're making too many mistakes, we're overthinking things, we're experimenting too much, and we need to go back to our fundamentals.
I think you might have hit it really well right there. Yeah, that is exactly it. The team's just not quite thinking the way they need to be at this point.
And they have to work through it. That's the only way to get past it, just working through it. Quick update of the non-broadcasted match that's happening right now. Elevate is up 3-2 against Roulette, and we'll keep you updated on that series as well. As we get ready for the third match of the night. After this, you're watching the WGLNA. Don't go anywhere.